You're watching Connecting the Dots, reliving Northwoods history with Carrie Bladorn. Most Northwoods residents and visitors recognize the name Barefoot Charlie. Whether from a postcard showing from Chicago to the Northwoods mapped on the soles of his feet, an old bar story about a bear with a slot machine in its chest, or the memory of a tavern filled with live trees, or painted footprints on the tavern floor, his legend still echoes through the pines of Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin. Charles Haas was born on May 9, 1891 in the Appleton, Wisconsin area. In his youth, he came down with a serious illness then known as blood poisoning. A local doctor recommended an odd rural remedy, walking barefoot through cow pies in a pasture. Strange as it sounds today, Charlie did it. He recovered, and he never forgot it. Soon after, what began as a cure became a way of life. Charlie rejected shoes altogether, and for more than 65 years he went barefoot through snow, heat, and everything in between. His feet grew thick, wide, and tough as leather. Even in winter, locals recall him knocking the snow off his bare red feet as he walked into town or behind his bar. It was this commitment, part eccentricity, part personal code, that earned him his iconic nickname, Barefoot Charlie. As a young man, Charlie moved from Appleton to Alvin, Wisconsin, where he married and started a family. But somewhere along the way, he made a dramatic life change. For reasons unknown, he left his family and moved farther north, purchasing property in the small Wisconsin and UP border town of State Line, now known as Land O'Lakes. It was there, amid the trees and alongside the Wisconsin River in Vilas County, that he began pursuing a singular dream: to hand-build a Northwoods roadside tavern that reflected his unique personality and love of the forest. In the early 1930s, Charlie began constructing what would become Barefoot Charlie's Rustic Nightclub. The log tavern building grew, and inside he built a round bar, constructing it around a giant tree. He dug a root cellar below, ran beer lines up through the tree, and had taps mounted directly into the trunk. The bar stools were made of stumps, the floor pieced together with wood cookies, cross-section of logs laid like tile. And in a burst of barefoot whimsy, Charlie once dipped his feet in white paint and walked across the floor, leaving a trail of painted footprints that delighted visitors for decades. He opened the tavern during the tail end of Prohibition, but the federal government's ban on alcohol didn't stop Charlie or many of the 1920s and 30s era bar owners of the Northwoods from serving their patrons. Legends of visits by Al Capone and others are tied into the stories of the earliest days of the Rustic Nightclub. But the tavern was more than a bar. It was a forest museum, a taxidermy gallery, and a folk art masterpiece. Charlie was an avid woodsman and collected anything he found interesting: twisted tree roots, burls, shelf fungus, antlers, stones, bones. Every inch of the interior was covered in wild Northwoods relics. The walls were lined with mounted deer, fish, and porcupines. The rafters held clusters of gnarled branches and curiosities. Most famously, he built a functioning slot machine into the chest of a full-size taxidermy bear, one of the tavern's most iconic features. Charlie lived and breathed his creation. He wore buckskins with fringe, a feathered headband, or ragged flannel shirts, always barefoot. He operated the tavern during the warmer months, but during winter he would either close up shop or open a smaller brick cabin on the property as a makeshift winter bar. In his later years, Charlie spent his winters in Key West, Florida, where he even built a beachcomber version of the tavern using driftwood and seashells gathered along the shore. Some of those seashells that he brought back can be seen in some of the designs on the buildings still on site. Back in Land O'Lakes, he expanded the grounds with rustic outbuildings and cabins, all made in his signature log and brick style. He even added a miniature hobby train and carousel for visiting children. Families would stop for a drink and a ride and a peek at the bear slot machine. It was part watering hole, part museum, all roadside attraction. Charlie passed away in Eagle River on September 5, 1970, at the age of 79. True to form, he was buried barefoot. His gravestone in Alvin even has 2 bare feet on it. After his death, an estate auction sold off many of his personal effects, but the tavern remained in place. Ownership of the Rustic Nightclub changed hands. For a time, it was operated seasonally by Leslie Demers, a Land O'Lakes local. In 1977, then 27-year-old Dido Bush from Illinois stumbled upon Charlie's while tavern hopping during a visit to the Northwoods, where a friend of his had taken a teaching job in Eagle River. Dido fell in love with the place the moment he walked through the door. He bought the bar that same year. Business was steady through the late 1970s and early 80s, especially among tourists. By the fall of 1984, Dido made the bold decision to keep the tavern open through the winter, something Charlie himself had only done on a small scale. The gamble paid off. Sales were strong that fall and into the holiday season, as it catered to the growing number of snowmobilers in the Northwoods. According to Dido, tragedy struck on January 25, 1985. During a brutal cold snap with wind chills plunging to 30 below zero, a malfunction in the wood furnace ignited a fire. The flames quickly spread through the log structure. Barefoot Charlie's rustic nightclub burned to the ground, taking with it every Charlie crafted detail. The painted footprints, the tree with the beer taps, the bar stools made of stumps, all gone. Dido Bush, heartbroken, described the loss as the end of more than a business. It was the loss of an institution. Locals cried, the region mourned. Barefoot Charlie's wasn't just a tavern, it was part of the cultural fabric of the Northwoods. Today, the original building is gone. Only remnants of its foundation have survived, but the legend lives on. The Land O'Lakes Northern Waters Museum has several surviving items, including primitive wood carvings and one of Barefoot's buckskin jackets on display. The Barefoot Charlie exhibit is one of their most popular displays in the museum. Charlie's story is still told today by those that remember him, or simply wish they'd had a chance to visit. His iconic photo, reclining with the road map across his feet, remains one of the most famous images in Vilas County folklore. Charlie's homemade sign once read, "Rustic, odd, unique, different, no other like it." And he wasn't wrong. There never was and never will be another person like Barefoot Charlie or his legendary rustic Northwoods nightclub. I'm Kerry Bladorn, and you're watching Connecting the Dots, reliving Northwoods history on Newswatch 12.